Hey everyone, welcome back to another World of Warcraft Dragonflight Alpha video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Warlock talent trees. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the talent trees for the Affliction Warlock specialization. If you haven't seen my first video for Warlock, which was the Destruction Warlock video, I encourage you to go check that one out as I do a thorough overview of the class talent tree in that video. Whereas in this video, we're mainly just going to be focused on the Affliction talent tree in order to save some time. So we will be going through and looking at the talent, seeing what all is available. And while we're doing that, we'll be having an eye towards creating a build that's going to work well in open world content for questing, leveling, and solo play. So before we get started, please throw a thumbs up or a like on the video. Let me know in the comments section what you think, if you've been enjoying this series, and if you want to see more videos like this from me beyond the alpha. I really am using your feedback to let me make that decision on whether or not I should continue to make content beyond just this sort of like testing videos. All right, so we are Spec Affliction here. And over in the talent tree, it looks like we are given Curses of Enfeeblement, again, just like in Destruction, as the default talent that we get here. We're going to jump into the spell book and take a look at what we get without putting any talent points in. So it does look like we have Corruption this time, which I don't believe we had on Destruction. We've got our Health Stones, we've got our Soul Well, Curse of Exhaustion, Demonic Circle, Drain Life. We've got Eye of Kilrog, Fear, Health Funnel. This thing did not give me all my action bars. That is interesting. Normally it keeps the action bars between videos, but I seem to have lost one there, so we're going to bring it back. Okay, so we've got, our Health Funnel here. We've got our Fear, Ritual of Doom, Ritual of Summoning. We've got Shadow Bolts, okay. Shadow Bulwark from our pet. Got our Soul Stone, Subjugate Demon, Summon Demon, and we do have the Imp, Voidwalker, Fell Hunter, and Syad available by default. We've got Unending Breath, Unending Resolve, and then we have the passive we've got from the talent tree here, Curses of Enfeeblement. We've got Soul Leech, and then we also have Soul Shards. In the Affliction tab, we've got Agony. And then we also have our Mastery, Potent Afflictions. So this increases the damage done by Malefic Rapture, Agony, Corruption, Unstable Affliction, and Seed of Corruption. Okay, and we have Agony and Corruption. The rest I'm assuming we will get, or we will be able to get from the specialization talent tree. All right, if you haven't noticed as we go through these abilities, I'm going to assume you have some working knowledge of Affliction Warlock, and I'm not going to go through every single ability, every single talent in detail. Mostly going to keep an eye on things that are new or things that I need a refresher on. I do play Affliction Warlock off and on. The last time that I was playing, I basically was going for a cast all the dots and get a bonus build. We'll see if that's still the direction I want to go when we get into the talent tree, or if they've created some stuff that makes me want to go in a different direction. So let's jump into the talent tree. We're going to pretty much do, I think, the same sort of build that we did last time on Destruction Warlock. Now, Destruction Warlock was a specialization that I was kind of bored with as of BFA or Shadowlands. It was the specialization that I played the most, but it just kind of lost its shine for me, and I started playing primarily Demonology. The builds that I was able to create on the Destruction tree were pretty exciting and made me want to play the specialization again, so we'll see if Affliction can compete with that. Alright, we're going to grab Burning Rush. We're going to grab Imp Step for Burning Rush to boost it as well. We're going to grab Demon Skin. That's going to take us into Accrued Vitality, which we do want to pick up. We'll pick up Spell Lock, which has been moved off of Fell Hunters and placed into the talent tree now. So this gives us an interrupt that we can use without having to have a specific pet out, which I think is pretty nice. Let's see. We've got stamina. We do want to get this desperate power. Let's see. I believe we took both of these. And then we also took desperate power, which is really nice. We took Dark Pact along with Dark Pact sacrificing 5% of our health. We also took Claw of Indereth to boost our Drain Life even more. Drain Life is like a beastly ability with all these talents. I really like it the way it is now. Okay. I know we took Grimoire of Strategy, and I believe we did that by going through Strength of Will. And I think we got there by going to Demonic Gateway. And then also here, that gives us the points. So now down here, I'm going to take a quick look. So we have Malefic Rapture increases the damage of Agony by 5% for 6 seconds. And that goes into Dimensional Rift. So this is the direction we went on Destruction. I just want to check and see if there's anything we wanted to do. Now, the Summon Jailer was not yet implemented, and the Inquisitor's Gaze is not yet implemented. So we kind of just avoided this section of the tree because some of the keystones and the more interesting stuff is not yet implemented. So I believe we go ahead and we just kind of put points in here. And then we also have Teachings of the Black Harvest. And then I believe we put 2 points into Soul, or 1 point into Soul Conduit. So that's going to be our class talent tree. So we're going to hop over to Affliction, and we're going to go through the talent tree. And first we're going to look at our active abilities, which are the ones in these boxes here. Then we're going to look at our choice nodes, which are the ones that have the arrows on them. And then we'll look at the true passive nodes, the circle ones here, as we go through and create the build that we want to make. So looks like we start with Malefic Rapture. So this is a Soul Shard Spender. It says your damaging periodic effects erupt on all targets, causing shadow damage per effect. So this was a super cool ability that got added, and one of the ones that I think made Affliction, took it to the next level of fun. So it's cool that this is the first one you have to take in order to get into the tree, and that it's just sort of default in the builds. So then we have Unstable Affliction, and we have Seed of Corruption. Unstable Affliction, more single target. Seed of Corruption, a little more AoE. We've got Drain Soul. So this will drain the target's soul, causing damage over time. Enemies' damage is increased against enemies below 200% health, and this will generate a soul shard if the target dies during this effect. This is another ability that I really like as sort of like an execute that will generate a soul shard for you. It's a really nice ability that I enjoy having, especially when you're going from enemy to enemy, and those enemies are fairly weak because you're questing or leveling. You can basically get Drained Soul to give you a soul shard every time you kill something. So I do like this ability. We have Soul Tap, so sacrifice 5% of your Soul Leech, which is your shield that gets generated, to gain a soul shard. Okay. It says it's instant, does not have a cooldown or anything that I can see. I would expect it to have one. It'd be interesting to be able to sacrifice 25% of your Soul Leech to just gain 5 soul shards. Not that you need to gain 5 normally. That being said, though, I mean, that is a lot of global cooldowns where you're not casting something else. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Looks like it is connected to Death Bolt. So we'll see when we get down there. We got Grimoire of Sacrifice. Soul Swap. So this is 1 soul shard, 30-second cooldown, and it applies all your main damage dealing dots to the enemy. Okay. We've got Death Bolt. So this is a 30-second cooldown, costs 3 soul shards, and launches a bolt of death at the target, accumulating 50% of the remaining damage from your spells on the target and dealing it over 3 seconds. So this does help you to take some of your long damage over time abilities that you have on a target and basically execute them faster. This is a 30-second cooldown. I don't know if we'll be able to take anything to kind of like reduce the cooldown or reset the cooldown, but I do like having access to Death Bolt just because, you know, we're looking at Corruption, which is 14 seconds. We're looking at Agony, which is 18 seconds, and then probably Unstable Affliction, which is 21 seconds. And all of those are basically longer than the time you're going to need to kill something when you're questing. So being able to throw out Death Bolt and kind of like mass process a lot of that damage that's left over in 3 seconds is a big, huge burst of damage. We've got Soul Rot. So this is a 1-minute cooldown, and I believe this is the Maldraxxus ability, I think, for Warlocks right now in Shadowlands. So this is going to wither away all life force on the current target and up to 3 additional targets nearby, causing your primary target to suffer a bunch of nature damage. Maybe it might be Night Fae. I don't remember. I got my Warlock to 60, but yeah, it's been a long time since I played it. I don't even remember what faction it is. And secondary targets will suffer nature damage over 8 seconds. Okay. For the next 8 seconds, casting Drain Life will cause you to also drain life from any enemy affected by your Soul Rot, and Drain Life will not consume any mana. I do believe this is the ability I was using. I remember using this at least in the beta, and it's kind of cool. You know, it's an AoE sort of setup here. So you cast Soul Rot on your main target, you hit stuff, you know, in the cluster around the target, and then you can drain life and it affects all the enemies. It doesn't consume any mana. It's kind of a cool ability here. The 1-minute cooldown, you know, it makes me want to lean towards something like Death Bolt generally, but if we are suffering from AoE like viability, like if it's hard for us to pull 3 things at a time, then, you know, picking up something like Soul Rot maybe potentially makes that a little bit easier, and it becomes a little more appealing than Death Bolt. We've got Haunt, which I do like using quite a bit. So 15-second cooldown, it haunts the target, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 10%. If the target dies, Haunt's cooldown is reset. So one of the reasons to take Haunt is because there were some builds, like the one I was playing, where you just put as many dots as possible onto the target, and then you get a nice bonus from that. And that's usually with Malefic Rupture, but it doesn't look like you're really getting all the bonuses you normally did from that. Maybe we'll be able to get that somewhere through a passive in the tree. So I'm not sure if that, you know, get as many things on the target as you can build is still viable in here. We'll have to see. And then we do have this Summon Dark Glare. So the Dark Glare is going to extend the duration of your damage over time effects on all enemies by 8 seconds. And it also serves you for 20 seconds. So this is one that I don't particularly like for questing and leveling. It's a 2-minute cooldown, so you know you're gonna fight a lot of enemies in between being able to use this, and typically you don't want to extend the duration of your dots on your target for the reason I already talked about earlier. Your dots just have a super long length compared to time to kill on leveling enemies anyway. So based on what I'm seeing in the actives, we're probably going to want to get Unstable Affliction and Seed of Corruption. So we have both options. Generally, the closer to the top something is on the tree, the more like core it is to your rotation anyway. I do like picking up Drained Soul. Soul Tap is interesting. Death Bolt looks interesting. Soul Rot has potential, as does Haunt. I'm not really interested in Grimoire Sacrifice because I like to have, especially the tanking pet, out when I'm questing. Soul Swap is okay. I'm not super concerned about that, and I'm definitely not interested in Dark Glare. So at the moment, I'm kind of leaning towards the left side and middle side of the tree, but we definitely have to dive more into it. So let's go ahead and take a look at our 2 choice nodes we have. So the first one here is Siphon Life. So this is instant cast. Siphons the target's life, dealing shadow damage over 15 seconds and healing you for the damage done. So this is fairly nice, but honestly, I think we've got to take it out and test it, but I think with the talents we picked up on the class side for Siphon Life, like we are, our Drain Life, we are like solid on our healing. That's, I mean, it's a nice ability to have, but I think for just generally leveling, we're going to be rock solid and probably won't need this. Then we have Absolute Corruption. So Corruption is now permanent and deals increased damage. Duration reduced to 24 seconds against players. I do like Absolute Corruption. It is nice because you can keep things permanently dotted, which means if you have something that triggers based on you having a dot on the enemy, then just putting that corruption out there is good enough for you to manage all those triggers. Also, usually we can do other things to boost corruption, so we'll have to see. I feel like here, you know, we won't need Siphon Life, and we may take Absolute Corruption, but it also probably isn't a necessity. All right, and then our other choice node here, we have Phantom Singularity. So this is a 45-second cooldown, puts a singularity above the target, which consumes the life of all enemies within 15 yards, dealing damage over time and healing you for 25% of the damage done. So this is a little bit like an AoE version of Siphon Life. So Siphon Life does less damage, but it does damage over 15 seconds and heals you for a larger portion of that damage, whereas Phantom Singularity does more damage over a shorter period of time. Not by much, but a shorter period of time, and heals you for 25% of the damage done. It also, both of these do count as an additional dot. And then we also have Vile Taint. So this is a 20-second cooldown ability that costs a soul shard. It does an explosion at a target location, dealing shadow damage over time, and applies agony and curse of exhaustion to those enemies. So I feel like we have options in these nodes, but not necessarily anything that I feel like I have to take. So let's get into it and take a look at the passives that we have available. So we're going to grab Unstable Affliction and Seed of Corruption. And then we're going to look at our passives here. Keeping in mind that we probably do, for the builds, I feel like I'm going to want to lean into picking up Drained Soul, whereas these other two here are going to be optional. Moving down the tree, I also still don't feel like in terms of actives, we're going to be too worried about the right or left or middle side here. I'm not too worried about Soul Swap or Grimoire of Sacrifice, so we can just take whatever's good up here. Heading down, I probably am going to want to get Death Bolt or Soul Rot or Haunt. So again, I think this particular tree we're probably leaning away from, but let's take a look. So we have Nightfall. Corruption has a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt or Drained Soul to deal increased damage. Shadow Bolt is instant cast when this is affected. So I do like that. That gives us it gives us instant cast increased damage Shadow Bolts, which is really nice. And we do have Drained Soul here. So getting that to be, you know, deal increased damage just makes it easier for us to generate that extra soul shard. Not super necessary. I mostly would take this for the instant cast Shadow Bolts. That leads us into either Inevitable Demise. Damaging an enemy with agony increases the damage of your next drain life by 7%, and this stacks up to 50 times. It looks like we can put 2 points into there, so it increases the damage by 15%. Not super necessary in my opinion. I feel like our drain life is going to be pretty solid. If we do pick up soul or drain soul, we're probably going to be using that when the enemy is dead. So we'll only really be casting like drain life when we specifically need to heal. So I don't know if that's necessary. Here we have Refreshing Corruption, Agony, or Siphon Life with less than 5 seconds remaining will deal shadow damage and has a chance to grant you a soul shard. So another one that I don't feel is super necessary here. We shouldn't really be refreshing Corruption, Agony, or Siphon Life with less than 5 seconds remaining on targets that we're questing. leveling against, they should just die before we, if you look at agony with 18 seconds, like we should definitely kill the target within 13 seconds. So I don't know how useful that is. Got corruption is instant cast and instantly deals damage. I do like that. I like having instant cast on corruption. It just helps you dot things a lot faster. That makes our agony and it makes our corruption instant cast. We have to cast unstable affliction right now, so it kind of gets us into casting that or seed of corruption a little bit faster. And here, agony's damage starts at 2 stacks and can now ramp up to 14 stacks. All right, so agony is going to deal damage over time, starts low and increases over the duration. So that does just amplify agony, which is nice. Seed of Corruption now embeds demon seeds into 2 additional nearby enemies. So by default, it's embedding in a single enemy. This is really nice to have, actually. And then that leads into Seed of Corruption's Explosion, increases the stack count of agony by 1 on all targets hit. It looks like we can increase this by 2. So pretty strong AoE stuff going on here. So looking at what we have, unfortunately, I don't love either of the talents that leads into Drained Soul here. I do like Nightfall. I like Xavian's Teachings. I think Writhe and Agony, so that's going to start at 4 stacks now, is pretty nice. So the Seeds is pretty good as well. So we're kind of skipping over Drained Soul here, but we'll see based on the other passives we have access to. So down here we have Shadow Bolt and Drained Soul. Apply Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 1.5% for 16 seconds, and this can stack up to 3 times. All right, then here, when you kill a target, its soul bursts into flames, dealing Shadow Flame damage to all nearby enemies. So again, kind of focused on the AoE there. I don't necessarily know that we need to pick that up. Here we've got Harvester of Souls. Each time corruption deals damage, it has a chance to deal 7 shadow damage to the target. That is not a lot. Hopefully that is a bug. Even with 2 points in, that's not very much. Although I guess, corruption is dealing damage fairly often. And it'll heal you for 100%. Shadow Bolt and Drained Soul deals 7% increased damage per damage over time effect you have active on the target. So there is a payoff for having as many damage over time things on the target as possible. Corruption damage is increased, and each time it deals damage, any of your curses active on the target are extended by 1 second. So increased damage on corruption is cool. The curses, I don't really know. Like, I really don't care about curses. I feel like they still haven't done a good job of making those interesting. So let's see. It's 2 points no matter what to pick up Drained Soul, which I think I do want to take. I think we will grab Absolute Corruption. Just to have that permanent corruption. So it's instant cast, it's permanent. And I think we want to get Harvester of Souls. So do we want to refresh Corruption, Agony, or Life in less than 5 seconds? Or I think just dealing and damaging an enemy with Agony, increasing the damage over next Drain Life is probably where we'll go to pick up Drained Soul. And we'll grab Harvester of Souls. I think we want to get Withering Bolt here. And so we either need to pick up Shadow Bolt and Drained Soul, apply Shadow Embrace, or when we kill a target, it bursts into flames. I think we'll pick up this one, and then we'll grab Withering Bolt. And then we do have 2 points left, so I do not want to get Grimoire Sacrifice. I'm not super worried about Soul Flame. I'm not trying to head over into this section anyway. So this is Summon Dark Glare. Dark Glare increases the damage, and then every soul shard you spend reduces a cooldown to summon Dark Glare. Again, I just don't like this section here. I don't think we need. And we have access to the rest of the tree already, so we can kind of just put these points wherever we want. So we have 2 points. I don't want to get Pandemic Invocation. We could grab Soul Tap if we wanted to. I don't want Grimoire or Soul Flame. Could get Agonizing Corruption, and we could also pick up either Phantom Singularity or Vile Taint. So I think going for another damage over time ability that we can cast here is probably the way to go. And I think as of right now, let's see, we are spending our soul shards on Malefic Rapture, sorry, Seed of Corruption, and I think that's it. So we could probably afford to pick up another soul shard ability on a 20-second cooldown if we wanted to. I think we'll go with Phantom Singularity for now. We could definitely change that. So we'll pick that up, and we'll pick up Soul Tap. So the way this is going right now, we're going to have Corruption, we're going to have Agony, we're going to have Unstable Affliction on the targets. We are probably going to add like Phantom Singularity to the target. How many soul shards are we spending there? We're not spending any, I think. So Corruption is going to be free, Agony is going to be free, Unstable Affliction is going to be free. So really, I mean, we do have the soul shards to spend on something to add more additional damage over time. That makes me want to lean into maybe Vile Taint, 20-second cooldown, so we can use it a lot more often. And it also will apply Agony and Curse of Exhaustion, so we can skip casting Agony. It's not instant cast though, so it does kind of slow us down. So I don't know, because we're having to cast Unstable Affliction, right? That's a 1.3 second cast. Everything else is instant, right? So we could throw out Corruption, Agony, Phantom Singularity, Unstable Affliction, and then all of a sudden, like, we're hitting our Shadow Bolts are hitting a lot harder at that point, as well as our Drained Soul. This is going to last for 13.6 seconds. This one will last for 21 seconds. Agony will last for 18, and then Corruption will last forever. Okay, so with all that in mind, we've got 3 different little sections we can go into. So let's check out what this is first. Corruption and Agony each grant an application of Wrath of Consumption when a target dies, increasing all periodic damage dealt by 3% for 30 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So pretty nice if you're, again, in a situation where you're fighting a bunch of different enemies, but not necessary. We've got Haunt, so this is another damage over time ability that we could put out there. It does have a 15-second cooldown, so we can use it more frequently. It does have that extra cast time. It looks like this goes into a couple of passives. So Haunt deals additional damage when it ends or is dispelled. The soul returns to you, healing for 50% of the damage it did to the target. And then your Haunt spell also increases the damage of your damage over time effects to all targets by 20% while active. So that's a cool little ramp up on our damage over time abilities. Okay, here in the middle we have Malefic Rupture's damage is increased by 12%, and each cast extends the duration of Corruption, Agony, and Unstable Affliction by 1 second. So that is a 2-point ability, so it's going to increase the damage of Malefic Rapture by 25%, which is really nice. I'm not overly concerned about the extension of the duration here. That's better suited for targets that are going to live longer, like dungeon bosses and raid bosses and things like that, but the increased damage is very nice. And then we have Calamitous Crescendo. While Agony, Corruption, and Unstable Affliction are active, your Shadow Bolt has a chance, and your Drained Soul has a chance to make your next Malefic Rapture cost no soul shards and cast immediately. So we are going to have all those active. So that is a nice little... So far out of everything we've seen, I think I like that the most. Just a boost to Malefic Rapture. I don't hate the Haunt points, though. So let's see. Then we have our Soul Rot. So 1 minute cooldown that we do have to cast. It's going to add the additional damage over time stuff there. And it gives us the AoE Drain Life. I think we probably don't need that. We probably rather have Haunt so far. But let's see what we can work into here. Each target affected by Soul Rot increases your haste and critical strike chance. Very nice. Like, I see this as something that's probably going to be good against, like, dungeon packs. And then your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage faster. That is really nice as well. But I think we might end up with Deathbolt instead, which will just consume a bunch of the remaining time on the target and deal that damage faster. Malefic Rapture increases the damage of your Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul by 20% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So basically, if Malefic Rapture doesn't kill the thing, we have additional damage on Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul. Not sure if that's going to be necessary. I think, like, by the time we dot everything up, we cast a Shadow Bolt or two, like, we're ready to go into Drain Soul and just kill the thing. I don't know if we need the additional damage. So then we have our Death Bolt, and that goes into... So remember, Death Bolt is going to accumulate 50% of the remaining damage from your spells on the target and deal it over 3 seconds. So if we have like 10 seconds left on our Agony, it's going to take 5 seconds worth of Agony and deal it over 3 seconds while Agony is still dealing damage. And then here, spending a Soul Shard has a chance to make your next Death Bolt have no cost and be instant cast. Okay. And then Death Bolt extends your damage over time effects on the target by 4 seconds before applying its damage. So we don't need the extension of 4 seconds on the target because the thing is probably going to be dead. But adding the 4 seconds gives us an extra 2 seconds of the damage the Death Bolt is going to do. I don't know if either of these is absolutely necessary. But yeah, I don't know. I think I do want Death Bolt. So, I mean, essentially what we'll do is we'll dot everything up and then we'll Death Bolt with 3 Soul Shards. This does make it so we want to stay away from Soul Shard spenders if possible because we want to cast them on Death Bolt, which means we probably want to pick up Death Dealer to get the potential free Death Bolt that has no cost. It is instant cast. That's going to give us 2 more points to use. So we could put them into, Death Bolt extending damage over time, which I think is a perfectly fine talent. I just don't know if it's necessary for this build. So we could take Malefic Rapture, increasing the damage here. Or we could take 2 points into Deliberate Malice to increase the damage of Malefic Rapture. I think generally we're going to want to... We're going to want to kill stuff with Drain Soul most of the time to get a Soul Shard back, I believe. We could also take Haunt and put 1 point into Seized Vitality. So Haunt deals additional damage, and then we get a heal from it. Or we could put a point into Haunt and a point into Wrath of Consumption. We could also just pick up Soul Rot. There's a lot we can do here with these last couple of points, and I think if we had the 5 remaining points that we'll get from Affliction, it would probably change how we put these points in because we could get further, into a tree. If we had 7 points right now, I would probably take either the full Haunt tree or I would take the full Soul Rot tree here. But with the 2 points we have, I think we'll go with Pact of the Nathrazim just to make Death Bolt hit a little bit harder when we do get to cast it. And then we'll go ahead and just take Malefic Wrath. We'll have to look at testing and see if, maybe this is just absolutely worthless because the target is dead, because we do have a lot going on right now. But let's apply these changes and just take a look at what we have, and we'll kind of look at what the rotation is going to look like, and maybe that will help us to kind of figure out whether or not we need to change anything immediately. All right. Got that. We got our gateway, and then we have our interrupt. So that should be everything. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look real quick through our tree here. So basically in our class talent tree, the main thing we're getting is a lot of buffs to drain life, which is really nice. Over here, we've picked up Malefic Rapture, Unstable Affliction, Seed of Corruption, Drain Soul, Soul Tap, and Death Bolt. Okay, so with those, we're basically going to be dotting the target. We're going to use Malefic Rapture to explode those effects on the target when we can. Although generally, we're probably going to end up casting Death Bolt initially, and then maybe casting Malefic Rapture with whatever soul shards we generate from our damage over time abilities. We do have the addition of Unstable Affliction to add to the target when it's a single target, or we can throw out Seed of Corruption when we have multiple targets. If we throw out Seed of Corruption, then we don't have to worry about casting Corruption on the target. Now, we can apply Unstable Affliction and Seed of Corruption to the same target, but it just probably isn't worth it because we don't really want to spend the Soul Shard against a single target. So that's why I say, against a single target, we're probably just going to cast Unstable Affliction. Against multiple targets, we will throw out the Seed of Corruption, and we'll also throw Unstable Agony or Unstable Affliction on our main target. We do have Soul Tap, which can sacrifice some of our Soul Leech to give us a Soul Shard, so that if we're like 2 shards in and we want a Death Bolt again, we can do that by just hitting Soul Tap and getting a Soul Shard. We have Drain Soul, which is going to act as a finisher. We want to use this against the target when they are below 20% health and try to make sure that Drain Soul kills the target. We won't be able to test this against the target dummy, but we will be able to see it out in open world leveling content. Then we have our Death Bolt, which should hit pretty hard after we get everything stacked up on the target. Looking at some of the passives, Corruption is going to be instant cast, and it's also going to last forever and deal increased damage. Our Agony's damage is going to start at 4 stacks already and can ramp up to 18. Seed of Corruption will embed in more enemies than just the initial enemy. We've got Corruption giving a chance to make our next Shadow Bolt or Drain Soul deal increased damage, and also make that Shadow Bolt instant cast. Damaging an enemy with Agony increases the damage of our next Drain Life, and this can then stack up to 50 times. So on top of everything we're getting from the class tree, we have that as an additional bonus. So when we do actually drain life, it should be pretty insane. And we'll see if we could test that against the target dummy. Our Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul will apply Shadow Embrace, increasing our damage dealt to the target for 16 seconds, and this can stack up to 3 times. I don't actually know how useful that is, considering we have so many other abilities to cast that I don't know if we'll benefit from this when we're leveling, right? So against like dungeon targets or a boss or something like that, this would definitely be pretty valuable because you'll get a lot of drains, a lot of Shadow Bolts cast, but we'll see. We also have Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul deal increased damage per damage over time effect you have on the target. So after we've dotted everything up and we cast our Death Bolt, any Shadow Bolts we do after the fact are going to hit a lot harder. Each time Corruption deals damage, which remember it's now permanent, it has a chance to deal shadow damage to the target and heal us for 100% of the damage dealt. I'm not sure about those numbers. I think they're wrong, but maybe not. Maybe it's because we can corrupt multiple targets with like Seed of Corruption. And the fact that, you know, we can make corruption last forever means this is just like constant passive healing on potentially multiple targets, and that's why the number is so low. Then we have our Malefic Rapture, increases the damage of your Shadow Bolt and Drained Soul. So this stacks up to 3 times. I do not think we're going to get to cast Malefic Rapture more than like once per target. But it says for 10 seconds. So it may be that, you know, the next Shadow Bolt we throw out or something on a target will get the bonus, or that we'll be able to, you know, keep this buff going. I'm not really sure. And then we have spinning a Soul Shard as a chance to make our next Death Bolt have no cost and be instant cast, which is really nice, especially the no cost part. It's a pretty short cast, but not costing 3 Soul Shards is pretty big deal. And then Death Bolt is going to extend the damage over time effects on our targets by 4 seconds before applying its damage, so we'll get a bigger hitting Death Bolt. And we'll also get to add a little bit of extra time to the dots that we have on the target, extending them and giving us more time to get the bonus damage from Shadow Bolt and Drained Soul, as well as more time to cast Malefic Rapture. Okay, so right now what I'm seeing is there's a bunch of talents in here that I don't think are going to be useful against questing and leveling enemies, but they'll be good against rare spawns or elite creatures if you have to fight them. They'll also be good in dungeons. So my question going into testing in open world content is going to be whether or not it makes sense to move some of these talents out and put them elsewhere, like maybe bake them into a little more enhanced like AoE damage if that's what we need. Okay, so for right now, we're going to, you know, treat the target dummy as just a single target. Right, so we're going to want to put all of our dots on the target. All right, so we are going to... All right, let's tweak this a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna want to make sure that we have our corruption, our agony, our unstable affliction on the target. So that's our 3 main dots that we're going to use all the time. Now we do have Phantom Singularity, and we also have Dimensional Rift that we can add for an additional 2 damage over time abilities on the target if we want to. Where is our Death Bolt? Okay, Death Bolt. Okay, cool. So our Death Bolt, it looks like, yeah, it replaced our Shadow Bolt, I believe. Yes, it did. Okay, so it needs to say that in the tooltip, which it doesn't. Okay, so yeah, okay, so everything we have for Shadow Bolt applies to Death Bolt. That makes basically what we're doing a little bit better there. So my apologies, I didn't notice because it's not in the tooltip. It's also very early in the morning for me. But okay, so we do have Death Bolt now. So we don't have a spammable Shadow Bolt, but that's okay because we do have Drain Life to kind of fill the gap if we need to. So our Corruption lasts forever, so we'll just cast that first. Then we have our Agony, which is going to last 18 seconds and does not have a cast time. So we'll cast that second. That'll put 2 dots on the target. Then we'll cast our Unstable Affliction, which will last for 21 seconds. After that, we'll cast our Death Bolt. And we're just going to look at kind of what that damage looks like. And then we can also, after Death Bolt, we can cast our Malefic Rapture. And then typically against an enemy that actually has a reasonable health bar, unlike the target dummies, we'll end up casting Drained Soul in there as well. All right, so let's do that. Let's see kind of what like our Death Bolt is going to do against just our primary dots being cast, right? So we're going to do Corruption, we're going to do Agony, Unstable Affliction, and then let's Death Bolt and see what we get. That did not seem like a lot of damage. 1,000 damage. 1,000 damage. That's all we got. Ooh. Okay, so let's see what we get from the same thing here, but we're going to cast Dimensional Rift and Phantom Singularity. So this is going to be like the max dots we can do right now, with the exception of maybe Seed of Corruption. Okay, well, let's see what sort of damage we get out of that. So Corruption is going to be on there forever, which is a little annoying because we'll never get out of combat against the dummy, but... Alright, so Agony, Unstable Affliction, Dimensional Rift, Phantom Singularity, into a Death Bolt, which hit for 1,600. And has a 30-second cooldown. That does not impress me at all. Okay, so let's see. Let's see here. We want to spin soul shards in order to potentially reset the cooldown on Death Bolt. So let's do the same thing. We're going to go Corruption, Agony, Unstable Affliction, Death Bolt. Alright, and then Malefic Rapture. Cast that again. We did not get a reset on Death Bolt. So, I don't know if the damage here is correct or if it's just like ridiculously low and needs to be tweaked up. But this is the first time that I've made a build and looking at all these talent trees where I feel like I just need to like reset everything. That being said, it's hard to judge dot-based builds against a target dummy, especially when you have a finisher such as Drained Soul. I mean, if you guys look at this, let's see how much damage. So our Drained Soul. It hit for what?
You face not Malkazar alone, but the legions I command.
What? Corruption. Okay, Harvester of Souls healed you. Is this even... Drains the target's soul. It's channeled. What is happening here? There we go. What? Okay, it's over 4 seconds. I didn't even... Okay, Harvester of Souls hit the training dummy for 388 shadow. Hold up. Alright, let's cast something different in here just to change it up. So, I mean, Death Bolt is dealing a dot, but the damage still seems low. So we got 264, 264, 264, 264. So we really are accelerating our heal or our damage over time against the target that way. So again, it makes it hard to kind of tell. But here we got a string of corruption, right? Let's hit Drain Soul. Okay, so it hit for 188 shadow. $194 shadow. 193 shadow. This is not making any sense here. So that's not even our Drained Soul. It's our passive here. When Corruption deals damage, it has a chance to deal shadow damage and hit the target. So it is doing more than 15, which is nice. But is it just me, or is like Drained Soul doing nothing? Okay. This is the one time I feel like I need to go find something that isn't a target dummy. Because this seems buggy as all hell. And we're not going to find anything out here that's going to like present a challenge for us. I can at least see if like Drain Soul is just doing nothing, or if it's like a target dummy bug. Alright, so let's just go find a boar or something. Alright, we got a raptor right here. Alright, all I'm going to do is Drain Soul. So it hit him. So the tooltip is just shown. Your Shadow Bolt hit Blood Talon's Scythe Maul for 1600 Shadow, 458,000 overkill. What? Okay, you guys, look. The number of bugs I feel like I'm encountering here with this build is so high that I don't think I can say whether or not the build I made here is going to work. And I don't know if we're going to be able to test it either. We'll probably be able to test it by the time I get around to doing the testing video, which is going to be a live stream, by the way, so you guys can add your feedback and make suggestions and stuff, and we can chat about the build itself. So by the time I get around to doing Warlock, because I am kind of doing them in the order I put the videos out, chances are there will have been a couple of alpha builds that come out that have corrected some of these problems, and we'll kind of take a relook. But this is really the first time that I felt like there's enough bugs and things going on that I just can't be confident in whether or not the build is good or bad. I feel like the build should be pretty good, but I mean, there's no way. I know that number is going to be skewed because it's a low-level target, but I mean, it says your Shadow Bolt. We didn't even cast a Shadow Bolt. It literally just says you killed Scythe Maul and then Shadow Bolt hit. Like, we did not cast a Shadow Bolt at all. Right? We cast Drain Soul. Again, your Shadow Bolt. Yeah. All right, so sorry to disappoint those of you Affliction mains that are out there. Like I said, I could like redo this whole build, but I'm just not confident enough in whether or not like I said, one, it's hard to judge a dot build anyway against the target dummy, and obviously using it against low level targets isn't going to do anything for us. So I feel like we do need to take it out, and we need to actually just use it against creatures that are level appropriate and see how it does, because I still feel like it'll probably do fairly well, assuming that there aren't any crazy weird bugs, which at the moment I feel like there are probably some crazy weird bugs. So I think we're gonna leave it at that for this video. Sorry to disappoint, but you know, alpha is alpha, and like I said, we will be taking all the specializations out and testing stuff out in open world content. We'll take them to a leveling zone and do some quests or whatever. And I think by the time we get around to that for Warlock, some of this stuff should be fixed, and we can really reevaluate the build during that testing live stream. So I think that's it. This is the build that I have at the moment. Thanks for erasing it. Here, hold on. We can just reset. There we go. So this is the build I have at the moment. It's the one we'll test potentially when we get to it. And yeah, that's what I got for you. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to throw a like or thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you've encountered any of these weird bugs on the alpha, or if I just totally missed something. Like I said, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.